Did you know that nearly 50% of people in relationships feel unhappy? Shocking, right? Even more surprising is that many stay together for years, thinking it's normal to feel this way. A study by the American Psychological Association found that 70% of individuals in unhappy relationships fear being alone more than they fear staying unhappy. This reveals a hidden truth: comfort often feels safer than seeking true happiness. In this video, we'll dive deep into the real reasons people stick around in unfulfilling partnerships. We'll uncover the comfort trap, where familiarity wins over joy, and explore the myths of forever love that can keep us stuck. You'll learn how social media shapes our expectations and why emotional baggage can create invisible barriers. Get ready to challenge your beliefs about love and relationships. By the end, you'll have the tools to make choices that truly prioritize your happiness. Are you ready to break free from the chains of unhappiness? Let's dive in. Chapter 1: The Comfort Trap. Why familiarity feels safer than happiness. It's easy to say, if you're unhappy, just leave. But breaking out of a comfort zone is harder than most realize. Our brains are actually wired to crave familiarity because it's safe. Psychologists refer to this as the status quo bias, where people favor things that are familiar, even if it means staying in an unfulfilling situation. Have you ever heard of the warm bath theory? It's a concept from relationship psychology that describes how, over time, even an imperfect relationship can feel comfortable, like a warm bath. The water may cool over time, but we stay because it's still comfortable compared to the cold air outside. Relationships can work in a similar way. Leaving, with all its uncertainties, can seem far scarier than sticking it out. A 2018 study from the University of Utah found that people often stay in relationships because they think their partner needs them. This sense of duty can trap people in unhappy situations. In fact, 21% of respondents in the study admitted they stayed in a relationship solely for this reason. Strategy: to break the comfort trap, recognize when familiarity replaces true happiness. Acknowledge that discomfort is part of growth. Start by questioning, what am I gaining here, and what am I losing? Write down both sides, and you may see clearly how your life could improve outside the comfort of familiarity. Remind yourself, comfort isn't the same as joy. Chapter 2: The Myth of Forever. When ideals become emotional chains. We're all raised with the idea that true love lasts forever. Till death do us part is a powerful promise. But sometimes, the idea of forever becomes a reason people stay when they shouldn't. There's a phenomenon called the sunk cost fallacy that explains this. Basically, the more time and effort you've put into a relationship, the harder it is to walk away, even if it's not working. Imagine buying a movie ticket. If you realize 10 minutes in that the movie is awful, many people will still sit through the whole thing just because they paid for the ticket. Relationships work similarly. A 2020 study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that people who invest more time in a relationship feel more reluctant to end it, even when they're unhappy. In the study, 47% of people felt a stronger duty to stay in long-term relationships, despite emotional costs. Strategy: challenge the idea of forever. Remind yourself that just because you've invested years doesn't mean you have to invest more. Try to focus on the present instead of being tied to the past or future. Ask yourself, would I choose this relationship if I started fresh today? If the answer is no, it might be time to rethink the path you're on. Remember, happiness today matters just as much as happiness tomorrow. Chapter 3: Fear of alone versus desire for happiness. For some people, being alone feels scarier than being unhappy. There's a deep-rooted social stigma around being single, especially for women. Society often equates being single with failure, and it pressures people to couple up even if it means settling. A survey from Psychology Today revealed that over 40% of people in unhappy relationships stayed simply because they feared being alone. It's worth noting that being single doesn't mean being lonely. In fact, a study from the University of California, Santa Barbara, found that people who embrace singlehood report higher life satisfaction than those who fear it. Loneliness isn't about being alone, it's about feeling disconnected from others. Some of the happiest people actually enjoy their own company and prioritize building meaningful relationships over merely being in a relationship. Strategy: redefine what it means to be alone. Start by building a support network of friends, family, and interests that make you feel fulfilled outside of a romantic relationship. Focus on the joys of solo experiences, hobbies, self-discovery, and personal growth. Reflect on what truly makes you happy. Is it a person, or is it purpose and passion in life? The more you build yourself up independently, the less you'll fear singlehood, and the more you'll value happiness over settling. If you're enjoying this content and want more insights on relationships and happiness, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Join our community to stay updated on future videos that dive deeper into creating the life you truly deserve. Chapter 4: The Silent Manipulator: How Social Media Creates Unrealistic Relationship Goals. We live in a world where relationship goals are on display 24/7. Happy couples fill our feeds, and they seem to have it all together. But behind the screens, the reality is often very different. Studies show that social media can actually harm relationships, not enhance them. A 2019 study published in Cyberpsychology, Behavior, and Social Networking found that people who spent more time on social media were more likely to feel dissatisfied with their relationships. They constantly compare their lives to the highlight reels of others. Why does this happen? Social media encourages us to idealize relationships. The pressure to look perfect online often pushes couples to stay together for appearance's sake, not for happiness. You might be surprised to know that 43% of people admit they've stayed in a relationship to keep up appearances online, according to a 2021 survey by The Guardian. Strategy: start by disconnecting from the social media perfect relationship trap. If you find yourself scrolling through couple photos and feeling inadequate, take a step back. Recognize that what you're seeing is curated, not real. Instead, focus on your own values. What do you want in a relationship? Consider going on a social media detox to reconnect with reality. You may find that your relationship can flourish without the pressure of an online audience. Chapter 5: The Power of Almost: Why Settling for Close Enough Keeps Us Stuck. Have you ever stayed in a relationship because it was almost right? Maybe your partner has a few great qualities you adore, but something's missing. This is the trap of almost relationships. Psychologists say that almost relationships can be even harder to leave because we hold on to the hope that things will change. Author and relationship expert Esther Perel writes about this concept in her book The State of Affairs. She explains that people often cling to the what-ifs in relationships, the idea that with a little work, it could be perfect. But here's the truth: sometimes, the almost never turns into reality. In fact, the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships published a study showing that people who stay in almost relationships are more likely to experience long-term regret. Nearly 58% of those surveyed admitted they wish they hadn't settled for close enough. Strategy: if you're in an almost relationship, take an honest look at what's missing. Make a list of your needs and values, and compare them to your current relationship. Don't let the hope for change keep you tied to something that's just almost good enough. Ask yourself, if nothing changes, will I still be happy in 5 years? If the answer is no, it may be time to let go. Remember, it's okay to want more than close enough. Chapter 6: Love versus Fear: How Emotional Baggage Creates Invisible Barriers. Sometimes, it's not the relationship itself but our past experiences that keep us stuck. Emotional baggage from previous relationships can create invisible barriers in our current ones. The fear of repeating old mistakes can make people settle for less because it feels safe. This fear, known as repetition compulsion, is a psychological phenomenon where people are drawn to similar situations to try and fix past traumas. Best-selling author Brené Brown, in her book Daring Greatly, explains that vulnerability is often the missing link in relationships. When people carry past hurts, they build emotional walls to protect themselves. But these walls can keep them in relationships that feel safe but not fulfilling. In a 2020 survey by Psychology Today, 62% of people said that past relationships impacted their willingness to seek something better. Strategy: start by acknowledging your emotional baggage. Reflect on what past experiences might still be affecting you. Write down specific fears you have in relationships. Once you identify them, work on challenging those fears. Therapy can be a helpful tool here. It's not about erasing the past but learning to let go of its control over your choices. Ask yourself, am I staying here out of love or fear? If it's fear, then it's time to break free. If you found this video helpful and want to keep exploring relationship insights, don't forget to subscribe. Join our journey toward understanding love and finding true happiness. Remember, you deserve a relationship that brings joy, not just comfort.